And as for Albo, when he was all over the shop on 2GB breakfast with Ben Fordham this week, what a mess.
What policy levers will the Voice give to Aboriginal people that they don't have now?
What they'll give is the opportunity to put forward the views that they have of how you close the gap. We're currently not reaching 4 out of the 19 targets on health, education, housing, life expectancy, infant mortality, all of those issues. If we do things the same way, we should expect the same outcome.
Does your government consult Indigenous Australians now on the issues that impact them?
Well, of course, governments consult people, but this is an elected body that will be able to make representations to the government. This is a structural reform to do things in a different way so that it may make representations, as the wording says, on matters that affect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
But let's just stop it there for a sec. What did he just say? What the heck was that? Is that the details they say that they've given us? I've never heard more vague bureaucratic waffle speak come out of the mouth of an Australian Prime Minister in my entire life, and that is saying something. Ben Fordham tried to make some sense of it, like with, logic.
You're already listening to Indigenous people. You already consult with Indigenous people and Indigenous groups. You've got the National Indigenous Australians Agency, and their role by definition is to provide advice to the Prime Minister and the Minister.
That's the department. Let's be clear, Ben. I've heard you talk about that before.
They've got a job.
That's just the Department of Aboriginal Affairs.
Oh, so they're just a department. They don't matter.
Their job is...
You were just talking 10 minutes ago about the importance of public servants.
If you give me a chance...
You were just talking 10 minutes ago about the importance of public servants.
And they do play an important role. But they
consult with Indigenous people.
They play an important role in service delivery.
Let me ask you this. You're wanting to formalise who should be listened to. And members of The Voice will have exclusive access to government and decision makers. Isn't there a risk that by doing that others will be excluded, that there'll be other members of the Indigenous community? And I've heard this directly from one who says, well, you know what'll happen? When we have an idea, if we're not on The Voice, we'll be told, not by you, but by others on The Voice, to say, well, no, hang on a moment. If you want to put an idea forward, you've got to get on The Voice.
Ben. I'll give you the tip. People who ring in to your program, or people who write to me, or people have multiple opportunities to make representations to government. This is about doing things better for Indigenous Australians. This isn't an idea that came from me, that came from the Labor Party, that came from politicians. This came from Indigenous Australians themselves.
No, actually. It came from the 2017 Uluru Statement from the Heart, which came from a 4-day constitutional convention involving only 250 people, which followed a 2016 listening tour conducted in only 12 Aboriginal communities by a referendum council made up of only 16 people, appointed by Bill Shorten, who was then ALP opposition leader, and possibly the most left-wing Liberal Prime Minister Australia has ever had, Malcolm Turnbull, in 2015. That is where it came from. The whole thing has been skewed to the political left from the very start, and it is about enshrining a left-wing voice to Parliament permanently that will permanently skew political discourse in this country on everything that affects Aboriginal people, which is everything.